Kimmy Sack was the definition of unlucky. He had the misfortune of being diagnosed with a one-of-a-kind illness, something so rare that he was the only known case. To make matters worse, he had only 6 months left to live. His whole life had been a miserable grind, nothing but endless work, never once getting the chance to enjoy the pleasures of life. But what truly devastated him was the thought that he would die a virgin, and just when he thought fate couldn't be any crueler, it did on the very same day he was diagnosed. He won a lottery jackpot, a fortune beyond his wildest dreams, yet utterly useless to a man with no future. In the end, as expected, he died, but death wasn't the end. He was reincarnated, not as some mighty warrior or noble figure, but as a bald skeleton in the underworld, an inferior class undead monster, no better than a disposable foot soldier. His new role to eliminate all rebellious forces, threatening the demonic realm. So he did his job diligently, efficiently, ruthlessly. One by one, he wiped out every menace that stood against the demons. And when he finally brought prosperity to demonkind, who had been on the brink of ruin, he became revered as the undying sovereign of the underworld, earning the title of the Great Demon King. But there was one thing that annoyed him to no end. His name was Isaac, yet, for some reason, everyone insisted on calling him Isaac, whether intentional or just plain ignorance. It stuck. He gave up correcting them. While he did enjoy the respect and power that came with his new title, it was never his real goal. What he truly desired was simple. He wanted to be human again, not for glory, not for conquest, but for the small, mundane pleasures he had been deprived of. The taste of food, the sensation of pain, the struggles of daily life. Things that once seemed trivial now felt like the greatest luxuries. Determined to achieve this, he made his way to the divine realm, carrying the severed head of the enemy force's leader, as proof that he had completed the task assigned to him. With every faction challenging the gods now crushed, it was time for them to uphold their end of the deal. The contract was clear. Once the job was done, he would be turned back into a human. The gods, however, were in complete shock. The quest they had given him should have taken at least 500 years to complete. Isaac had done it in just a few, but there was a problem. They never actually intended to fulfill their promise. The task was meant to be impossible, a way to keep him as their pawn forever. Yet here he was demanding what was rightfully his. When one of the gods tried to stall, suggesting that he do just one more favor, Isaac instantly saw through their deceit. He wasn't some clueless fool with an empty skull. He had been played once, and he wasn't about to let that happen again. His anger erupted, an overwhelming force that sent tremors through the divine realm. The sheer intensity of his power made even the gods flinch. They had underestimated him. Panic set in, and in desperation, they resorted to their final trump card, a forbidden, holy art designed to seal away calamities like him. Using an ancient ritual, they inscribed his name onto a strange, centipede-like creature. This spell had an absolute effect. Anyone whose name was written on it would be completely immobilized, no matter how powerful they were. It was their ultimate fail-safe, and now it was being used to trap Isaac for eternity. But Isaac wasn't about to let himself be turned into some insignificant, powerless bug. If he had to choose between eternal imprisonment or complete annihilation, he would take the latter. A surge of power erupted from within him, growing more unstable by the second. The gods barely had time to react before a massive explosion rocked the entire divine realm. When the dust settled, Isaac was gone. The only thing left behind was the tiny caterpillar that was supposed to hold his soul. Seeing it there, the gods believed their plan had worked. The infamous Demon King had been sealed away at last. With him out of the way, they were certain that nothing could stand in their path. Now, they could focus on restoring their strength and ensuring their dominion remained unchallenged. However, one of the wiser gods remained wary. He warned the others not to grow complacent. Disasters, like Isaac, had a way of returning when least expected. To prevent history from repeating itself, he proposed a plan. They would create the perfect vessel for a saint in the human realm, someone powerful enough to exterminate every last demon. Another god, however, pointed out the cost creating such a saint would require an immense sacrifice, draining the power of whoever undertook the task. Still, the volunteer remained unfazed. He assured them it wouldn't be difficult. All he needed was the right soul to place inside the saint's body. As for his sack, the gods were convinced he was trapped inside the caterpillar, destined for eternal torment. They looked forward to seeing the once feared Demon King reduced to nothing more than a helpless insect for the rest of time, or so they thought. Now let's switch to our boy's perspective. After getting scammed by those dumpster gods, Isaac finds himself in a completely unexpected situation. He's been reincarnated, but not just anywhere. He's in the body of a baby. He has no clue how this even happened. One moment, he was ready to self-destruct, and the next he's here. The only logical explanation. Those bastards must have screwed up the seal. As he lies there, trying to process his bizarre situation, the maid standing nearby suddenly perks. Up in excitement, the saint has woken up. That's when it hits him. He's not just in any random baby's body. He's in the body of the so-called saint. The gods planned to create it first. He thinks this might be some kind of blessing in disguise. He got his wish right. He's human again, but the moment he takes a closer look at the servants surrounding him, something feels off. Their expressions, their movements, none of them look like they're actually happy to see him alive. Then one of them pulls out a feeder, filled with a suspicious green liquid. Every instinct in Isaac's body screams danger. His mind goes into full panic mode. He just became human again. There's no way he's about to die again. Right after being born, the bastard holding the feeder gives him a crooked smile, murmuring an apology for what's about to happen. Isaac has no idea what's in that bottle, but he's not about to find out. The moment the servant tries to shove the nipple into his mouth, he dodges with all the agility his tiny, newborn body can muster. His head twist left and right, dodging every attempt to force the liquid down his throat. The servants start to panic. Why is the saint rejecting the feeding? Well, Isaac has very obvious reasons. After finally getting a human body, the last thing he wants is to drop dead from whatever poison they're trying to feed him. But there's something even more important on his mind. How the hell did he even end up in this body? In the first place, then he hears it, Isaac. The servants are calling him by the same name everyone in the underworld used. The same name the gods used when they sealed him away. And that's when it clicks. Isaac remembers that Isaac is just another pronunciation of his real name. Even the gods used it when they performed the sealing ritual. But if they used the wrong name during the spell, that probably explains why he wasn't sealed at all. Instead, he somehow ended up reincarnated into this body. A wicked, almost joyful smile spreads across his tiny face. Those idiots actually failed to seal me away. The servants mistaking his grin for something else see this as their opportunity. Before he can resist, they force the feeder's nipple into his mouth, holding in place with all their strength. Isaac struggles, but even with all his unnatural baby strength, they refuse to let go eventually. He realizes there's no way to break free and stops resisting. The moment the liquid touches his tongue, his first instinct is to gag. It tastes absolutely disgusting, like drinking straight-up vegetable juice. At least it doesn't taste like poison. But honestly, with how horrible this stuff is, he'd almost rather take his chances with poison. And suddenly he feels it. Something wrong, something ominous entering in his body. His gut sinks, looks like there really was something toxic mixed into the feed after all. The scene shifts to the holy empire Hela. Deep within Hela's central temple, an old bishop, his wrinkled face twisted into a smug grin, was thoroughly enjoying himself. As far as he was concerned, Isaac, one of the saint candidates, should be long dead by now. Just the thought of it filled him with satisfaction. But then the air in the temple grew heavier as a new presence arrived. The emperor himself, Alexander Heathcliff Hela, strode through the halls. He wasn't here for a casual visit. His destination was clear. He had come to see the saint candidate of the Ashua household, the very candidate the bishop had been scheming against. And as expected, the bishop and his disciples bowed their heads in the presence of absolute authority. Alexander barely acknowledged them before getting straight to the point, questioning the old man about the reason for his visit. The bishop put on a well-practiced smile, feigning innocence as he claimed he had simply come to greet the saint candidate of House of Ashua, of course. He assumed the emperor was here for the very same reason. Just as they were exchanging pleasantries, a frantic voice suddenly rang through the temple halls. A messenger burst in, breathless. His tone urgent. Something had happened regarding Isaac. The weight of the moment was obvious. Whatever the news was, it wasn't good. The bishop, though outwardly calm, felt a surge of excitement. His heart raced with anticipation. Is that his plan must have worked. Without wasting a second, Alexander and his entourage of knights rushed toward the saint candidate's chambers. The tension was thick, the bishop trailing behind with a quiet smirk, fully prepared to witness Isaac's tragic demise. But the moment they arrived, the reality of the situation completely shattered his expectations. There was no body lying lifeless on the floor, no sign of suffering, no poison saint writhing in pain. Instead, Isaac sat comfortably, looking perfectly fine except for one small, unexpected detail. His belly had gotten plump. The servants quickly explained, revealing that Isaac had been consuming an alarming amount of vegetable juice. In fact, he had already downed 15 bottles of the tasteless liquid. For everyone else, this news was oddly amusing. But for the bishop, it was nothing short of soul-crushing. His mind reeled at the absurdity of it. This boy had just ingested 15 bottles of poison, more than enough to kill any ordinary person. Yet here he was completely unharmed. To understand just how Isaac had managed to survive such an outrageous amount of poison, it was necessary to rewind a bit. Back to the moment he took his very first sip of that so-called vegetable juice. The moment the liquid entered his system, something fell off. An ominous energy seeped into him, foreign yet strangely familiar. It didn't take long for Isaac to realize what it actually was: holy poison. A devastating toxin specifically designed to destroy the holy power of clergy members. It worked slowly without immediate effects, but once absorbed in large amounts, it became lethal under normal circumstances. This poison would be a death sentence. But Isaac was no ordinary saint candidate. He was a former demon king, and the poison it was made from demonic mana. To him, this wasn't poison. It was food now. Better than food, it was a delicacy. The equivalent of a fine wine. A gourmet feast, something he could indulge in forever, without getting tired of it. If anything, it was downright addictive, like a certain leafy, green substance that mortals enjoyed a bit too much. So naturally, after finishing the first bottle, he immediately threw a tantrum and demanded another one. The servants, oblivious to what was really happening, were more than happy to oblige. After all, their mission was to ensure he consumed enough of the poison. The more he drank, the better. But Isaac wasn't just playing along. He was genuinely thrilled to keep absorbing every last drop of it. The poison coursing through his veins did more than just harm his body. It allowed him to tap into a realm beyond the conscious mind, the mysterious and elusive unconscious world. Deep within that realm, at its very core, he had a goal: to create his mana core. Without wasting any time, he began the process. A ball of fire ignited in his hands as he carefully channeled the mana he had absorbed from the poison. Since a mana core was essential for using magic in the future, it made sense to prepare it first. But what should have been a simple step turned into a complete disaster. The mana inside him suddenly spiraled out of control. Cligring en explosion. The sheer force sent shock waves through his body, nearly knocking him unconscious. As the smoke cleared, he expected to see failure, perhaps even irreversible damage. But what lay before him was something entirely different. A mana core was supposed to form in one of the three primary colors: red, blue, or green. That was the natural order. Yet this was white completely. Unmistakably white. He had no idea what this meant. But the real concern wasn't the color. It was the sheer, overwhelming power radiating from this tiny, unfinished core. By all logic, something so small shouldn't feel this terrifying. And yet the energy pulsing from its center shivered down his spine, but rather than fear, a slow, delighted grin spread across his face. This was no curse. This was a blessing in disguise. Something far beyond anything he had ever expected. The thought of such immense power being crammed into his small, fragile body was exhilarating. If he refined it properly, if he pushed himself beyond his limits, he couldn't even begin to imagine what kind of monster he would eventually become. Standing at the edge of this newfound potential, his thoughts drifted to his past, a life where he had been forced to die like a pathetic failure, a nobody who had achieved nothing. All he had ever wanted was to survive. That desperate desire had led him to reincarnate. As a bald skeleton, he had clawed his way up, worked tirelessly as a demon, and created original buffs and skills through sheer effort. And now, it seemed, those abilities had carried over into this new form as well. While Isaac was lost in his subconscious turmoil, his two servants began to panic. He had been completely still for too long, and for a moment they feared the worst. Had the process killed him? Had he failed and lost his life in the attempt? But just as worry turned to alarm, the eerie silence was shattered. Without warning, Isaac slowly lifted a single finger toward the ceiling, and then cranking his voice up to the absolute maximum, he made his demand. He needed another bottle of poison. Back in the present, Alexander and his knights were relieved to see that things weren't as bad as they had feared. Even our boy, Isaac, let out a breath of relief. He had almost convinced himself that he was about to get assassinated. Thankfully, nothing bad actually happened. Well, you might not realize it, but yeah, bro was literally about to get assassinated. That's when Isaac noticed the bishop staring at him with pure disgust, as if someone had just force-fed him a rotten lemon. Confused, he wondered what in the hell this guy's problem was. Did he eat too much? Was there some sacred rule against enjoying a meal in peace? But no, there was no time to dwell on it. He knew overreacting, or acting weird might bring unnecessary attention. So he simply stuck to his best strategy, playing the role of an innocent, clueless child. Meanwhile, the bishop was practically vibrating with rage. From his perspective, this brat should have been rolling on the floor by now, coughing up blood, struggling for his last breath. But instead, Isaac was just lying there, happily, smiling, even grinning, like he was doing it just to mock him. And that was tweaking the hell out of this old man. Now, to really understand what's going on, we need to rewind a few days. At the headquarters of the Holy See, a major decision had been made. Whoever was chosen as the saint wouldn't just get the fancy title, they'd also gain control over the Holy Empire. And in one particular noble's mind, that was his power to claim. Standing in an ornate chamber, a golden-haired man looked far from happy. He wasn't stupid, he knew exactly why the noble families were suddenly scrambling to have their children declared as the saint. It had nothing to do with divine will, and everything to do with politics. And he wasn't about to let some random rich kid steal what was rightfully his loyal lapdog. The same bishop who was glaring daggers at his sack just days later stepped up, ever the obedient servant. He assured his master that there was nothing to worry about. All the other saint candidates consider them handled. But the golden-haired man wasn't convinced. He had heard rumors that a new saint candidate had appeared from House of Ashua, and this wasn't just any noble house. It had direct ties to the emperor. If true, this was a serious problem. The bishop visibly tensed. Yeah, this was going to be a bit trickier than expected, but he quickly recovered and reassured his master. No matter who this kid was, he would be dead long before the emperor even had the chance to name him as the saint. But Golden Boy wasn't having it. He wasn't the type to leave loose ends. If the bishop was so sure the kid was dead, then he should go back to House of Ashua and verify the corpse himself. And who was this golden-haired, power-hungry man? None other than Cardinal Harry Barrett, head of House Barrett, and he had one simple goal: to eliminate every saint candidate from rival families, ensuring that the next saint would come from his bloodline. In the present, the old man was staring at the very much alive child in front of him, and at this point he was absolutely dreading his fate. His mission had failed, and he knew exactly what that meant. The cardinal was going to have his head for this. All he could do was stand there, breaking into a cold sweat, mentally writing his will. Meanwhile, Alexander was busy admiring Isaac's striking, platinum blonde hair. It reminded him of the empire's founder, who had the exact same hair color. That was enough to make the bishop nearly combust. On the spot to him, comparing this brat to the Holy Empire's founder was outright blasphemy if looks could kill. If Isaac would have been vaporized twice over. But while the bishop was fuming in the background, Isaac was putting pieces together. The moment he heard the bishop refer to Alexander as Your Majesty, realization hit him. This man had to be the emperor himself. Alexander, on the other hand, kept casually spitting facts, completely unbothered by the raging bishop. He even went so far as to say that Isaac was closer to God than the current pope, which apparently made him the final saint candidate. That statement alone nearly made Isaac choke on air. Excuse what now him? A saint candidate, the former demon king. Yeah, that was not on his bingo card for today. Of course the bishop was not having it. The emperor was starting to favor this kid, and that was something he absolutely could not allow. He needed to act fast, so, without wasting another second, he turned to Alexander and politely requested for permission to inspect the child himself. He claimed there was something unnatural about the boy. After all, no baby should be able to chug that much vegetable juice. Without complaint, Alexander, however, didn't see anything weird about a saint candidate demolishing some monk food. In his mind, that was actually pretty on brand. Meanwhile, Isaac was still mentally buffering. How was he the former demon king? A saint candidate. This was the equivalent of an arch-nemesis plot twist that nobody saw coming. But the bishop wasn't about to let it go. He kept insisting that he be allowed to inspect the child. Finally, Alexander gave him the green light. But there was a condition. They would have to wait until someone from House of Ashua arrived. As all this was happening, our boy was casually burping out excess demonic energy. He hadn't been able to digest from overeating. But the second he realized what he just did, he slapped a hand over his mouth in pure panic. Oh no, did he just blow his cover? Yeah, he definitely did, because now the trash tier old man was staring at him with way too much interest. He had sensed the demonic energy, and just like that, he had the perfect excuse to inspect the child. As the bishop loomed closer, with that smug gotcha expression, our poor hero could do nothing but brace himself. The bishop was absolutely convinced this child had to be a fake saint candidate. He was sure Isaac carried impure mana, and immediately demanded that an inquisitor be brought in for further investigation. Alexander, on the other hand, was quickly running out of patience. Listening to this old Kubark nonsense about a saint candidate was starting to really get on his nerves. Sensing the tension, the bishop attempted to smooth things over, assuring him that there was no need for concern, because the pope had already selected the saint. And who was it? None other than a child from House Barrett. That bit of news actually made Alexander pause. He found it beyond suspicious that, out of all the potential candidates, the pope just happened to choose a child from his own house. Meanwhile, something finally clicked for Isaac. So that's why this old bastard is trying to kill me. Seizing his chance, the bishop scooped Isaac up into his arms, declaring that he needed to take the child to a priest and summon an inquisitor for a proper inspection. But before he could take more than a few steps, the emperor himself stepped in. Alexander's voice was calm but firm. He reminded the bishop that House Ashua was the imperial family's closest ally, and as emperor, he highly suggested that this so-called assessment be postponed to a later date. The old bastard stopped in his tracks, clearly fuming, but he wasn't done yet. This time he took a different approach, one that came with a not-so-subtle threat. Apparently the pope had mentioned that the crown prince's investiture ceremony would only take place after the saint's election was finalized. In other words, the pope was holding the emperor hostage by refusing to officially recognize his son, unless the emperor agreed to his chosen saint. Even Isaac could see what was going on, and it pissed him off, not because he wanted to be the same. Oh hell no, that title would only bring him unnecessary attention and risk exposing his real identity as a demon. But he definitely couldn't let the inspection go through. Either that would be even worse. Then a brilliant idea sparked in his tiny, mischievous brain without hesitation. He channeled mana into the feeder bottle he was holding, then swung it hard straight into the bishop's face. The impact was brutal. Teeth shattered, blood splattered, and the old bastard staggered back, his mouth now an absolute disaster zone. As his broken teeth gracefully flew through the air, Isaac did what any good child would do. He giggled innocently, acting as if he was just a clueless little kid. Playing around, the old man struggled to comprehend how something so simple could hurt this much. But he's Sacco. He just kept playing the role of an innocent, clueless child, like he hadn't just turned this poor guy's skull into a percussion instrument. Seeing the sheer strength of this little boy, the emperor's eyes practically sparkled. He wasted no time in making his declaration. This child must be the saint. Meanwhile, the old man was too busy wondering how in the world this brat was packing so much holy power. But his sack wasn't done. No. He swung the bottle again, landing another brutal hit, and another and another. At this point, it was less of an attack and more of a beatdown. Safe to say this was not a good day for the old bastard. Meanwhile, the emperor, oh, he was loving this. Seeing such a capable saint candidate in action was truly a delight. Isaac, on the other hand, was focused on sealing the deal. He reinforced the bottle with magic, ready to deliver the final strike. But just as he was about to swing, he felt something off about his own power. Every time he used mana, he could sense a faint trace of holy power mixed in, and that made no sense. Mana and holy power weren't just different. They were incompatible. They weren't supposed to work together. The only possible explanation, the mana core now residing inside him, was influencing his abilities in ways even he didn't fully understand. Before he could think too much about it, the old man finally fed up, snatched the bottle, and flung it away. His face twisted with rage as he pointed at the child, voice shaking with fury. This brat was a heretic. There was no other explanation. The only solution, immediate holy exorcism. But Isaac wasn't about to sit around and wait for that nonsense. Instead, he casually reached into the old man's jacket and, without hesitation, pulled out a creepy, shriveled hand. The moment he did, the color drained from the old man's face. Absolute horror washed over him as he realized what had just happened. And the crowd, oh, they saw it too. Now here's some context. This wasn't just any random severed hand. This was the corpse of a high-ranking demon, a sealed artifact known as a totem. These things absorbed the mana of demons they consumed, making them incredibly dangerous. Any sack, he had been carrying this thing around, like a lucky charm, just in case he ever ran into some demons. The old man completely lost it. How did this brat even know about the totem? His mind raced with panic. But before he could react, Isaac did something truly unforgivable. He casually tossed the totem onto the floor. For a moment there was silence. Then, with a dramatic snap of his fingers, Isaac unleashed the demonic monster sealed inside. The onlookers absolutely shocked, and my guy rocked. It was the definition of a true dab moment. The discovery of the shadow lich sent the emperor into high alert. His voice boomed through the temple as he turned on the bishop of the Barrett family, demanding to know why in the hell a demon had been summoned inside their sacred grounds. The bishop, in classic guilty man fashion, immediately tried to shift the blame. He pointed straight at the child, accusing him of tampering with the totem. But the emperor wasn't buying it for a second. Totems only work on dead demons. No way in hell a mere kid could have messed with it. Without wasting another moment, the emperor barked out orders. His men were to protect the child at all costs, not just from the demon, but from the shady bishop as well. Before Isaac could even process what was happening, he was yanked away to safety, much to the frustration of the bishop. And of course, like the little menace he was, Isaac made sure to throw in a smug grin at the old man, just to rub salt in the wound. But there were bigger problems now. The demonic figure let out a deafening roar. Its intentions now crystal clear. Kill the saint at all costs. And well, that was a huge problem. The monster locked its sights directly on Isaac. It wanted him dead. The royal guards immediately leaped into action, shielding the young master with their lives. But even Isaac was confused. He was the one who summoned this demon. So why the hell was it after him now? Still, he wasn't all that worried. Surely the emperor's elite royal knights could handle one demon right. Yeah, that confidence gone in seconds. One of the knights barely had time to blink before getting yeeted straight into a wall, his armor crunching on impact. Isaac just stood there stunned, suddenly questioning if these guys were actually competent, or if they had just bribed their way into the royal guard. The monstrous demon lunged, again hell-bent on achieving its goal, something about freeing the imprisoned king. But honestly, Isaac had no clue what the hell that even meant. What he knew was that the guard holding him looked absolutely petrified as more knights were getting tossed around. Like ragdolls at this point, Isaac realized he had to step in. And lucky for him, no one would notice. A bit of sneaky mana use in all this chaos. The demon lunged once more, ready to take Isaac out for good. And at that moment, one thought burned in his mind. Why in the hell was there an entire group of people trying to assassinate a damn baby? Oh, and another thing. He had literally just freed this demon, and now this ungrateful bastard wanted to kill him. Giano, screw that. Isaac invoked his true self. The presence of a demonic lord. Instantly, a wave of sheer, gut-wrenching fear crashed over the monster. The demon froze as if its very soul was being strangled, its eyes wide with pure terror. Because in that moment, it finally realized who it was standing before. The Skeleton King, but his sack wasn't done yet. A radiant glow suddenly burst from his small body, illuminating the entire temple. The Emperor and his guards watched, completely stunned, as every single beam of light washed over the demon, overwhelmed by the sheer divine energy. The creature screeched in agony before making the smartest decision. It had made all day running for its life. The demon was gone. The crisis was over. But what just happened? The guards stood frozen in place, their eyes locked on the young master, the kid who had just sent a high demon, fleeing in absolute terror. There was only one conclusion. This boy wasn't just a noble. He was divine. Meanwhile, our savage little killing machine was busy, being absolutely baffled by what just happened. Holy power him. That made zero sense. He had no idea how he had managed to channel divine energy, but one thing was clear. It wasn't sticking around for long. The power ran out pretty quickly, but then came the real twist. Turns out his current body had a special feature. He could actually convert his personal pool of mana into holy power. Convenient maybe. A massive problem, absolutely, because now that meant he couldn't gather any dark mana. And that led to another realization. There was no dark mana in the entire Holy Empire, none. Zero zilch. No wonder this place felt so suffocating. Meanwhile, the bishop, now captured, was still running his mouth, groaning and throwing around accusations like it was his full-time job. He kept calling the kid a heretic, and even had the audacity to suggest that Isaac was some kind of demon that needed exorcising, all for the sake of the emperor. Of course, but the emperor had had enough. For real, all this old man had done so far was scream about a child being a heretic, while being the same guy who literally unleashed a high-ranking demon on the royal knights. The hypocrisy was off the charts. With a firm voice, the emperor made it very clear. This man wasn't going to be let off so easily for his treachery, and that was very bad news for the bishop and his little gang, because if the emperor kept digging, he was bound to uncover the truth about their little spy network. Realizing how royally screwed he was, the bishop made a desperate move. In a last-ditch effort to protect his family, he sneakily attempted to cast a forbidden spell, one that would sacrifice his own life, in exchange for summoning a mana beast. with a single deadly mission. Kill the saint candidate. The creature burst forth, bearing its massive fangs, fully intent on tearing apart the tiny baby, sitting there who, by the way, was bored out of his mind. Isaac watched unimpressed as the so-called terrifying beast was unleashed. At first, he was hella confident that he could put this overgrown puppy down without breaking a sweat, but then, it hit him. Bro was completely out of mana. Just moments ago, he had used it all up, just as it looked like things were about to go south. A blinding attack shot across the battlefield, striking the monstrous creature before it could make a move, and stepping into the scene, like an action hero, was a silver-haired man, one who had clearly come with a vengeance. This was the devout Ashua, and he had arrived with his elite knight squad to put an end to anyone who had dared lay a finger on the child of House Ashua. At the head of this group stood Relai, the leader of the squad, and more importantly, the boy's uncle. Without hesitation, he ordered the immediate arrest of the bishop, leaving no room for nonsense. Meanwhile, baby Isaac was just chilling. Life was good. Relai then turned to his men and ordered them to show the proper respect to the newest member of their family, the son of Ashua. He even took a moment to apologize to his baby brother for not arriving sooner, and honestly, even Isaac had to admit this guy was pretty cool. No unnecessary speeches, no nonsense. Just straight up business. And to make up for their late arrival, they had brought a present. Isaac spotted something shining in the distance and immediately got his hopes up. Maybe it was gold, maybe some divine treasure. But not turns out. It was just a really messed up figurine of the Skeleton King getting his head chopped off. Yet a souvenir of his own execution. That was already bad enough. But the real nightmare hit when he noticed just how many of these things existed. There were figurines of him being burned alive, getting crushed to death, even pulverized into dust. A whole collection dedicated to his various brutal endings, and while the people around him were happily admiring the craftsmanship, Isaac was out here practically having heart attacks, realizing that he was going to have to live the rest of his life surrounded by these lunatics. At this point, our little murder machine was really not liking where this was going. And the worst part, he actually remembered these battles. The Santes, alongside 3 warriors, had been the ones to bring him down. And guess which family? They all belonged to Ashua. Yep, the very same family that he had now reincarnated into. Imagine coming back to life, only to find out you're part of your enemy's bloodline. Bro was mentally punching the air, as if things weren't already bad enough. The bishop suddenly roared at the Ashua family, branding them as nothing more than heretics who had created a monster. And this wasn't just a casual insult. The old geezer had made it his life's mission to expose Isaac's true identity. He vowed to personally annihilate the Ashua family. But yeah, enough of his yapping. Relay was officially done listening to this nonsense. With a swift motion, he sliced the bishop's throat. Not enough to kill, just enough to send a very clear message. It was only thanks to the Yashua family's mercy that the old man still had his head attached. Isaac, absolutely thrilled. Having a powerhouse like Relai on his side was the best thing he could have asked for. He started wondering, could Relai be convinced to go up against the Holy See in the future with the right persuasion maybe? Meanwhile, the Ashwani Knights were treating him with care and respect, which was hilarious considering he had fought against some of these guys before. He knew how terrifying the Ashuas could be. His own subordinates had dreaded facing a Ashua of Blue, for example, but now that same fearsome warrior was just some weirdo collecting creepy Skeleton King figurines. The Emperor, on the other hand, was just glad to have Relai on his side. During all this chaos, seeing an opportunity, he decided to extend an offer of a lifetime. He wanted to officially raise Isaac as a member of the royal family. For Isaac, this was music to his ears. The Emperor wasn't just doing this out of kindness, though he knew that the Holy Empire's internal and external enemies, especially Hela, would soon be targeting the young master. The Ashuas were powerful, no doubt, but there was no guarantee that they could protect the child from every threat. Isaac, still trying to process all this, was pretty confused. Why was this such a big deal? Well, apparently, he shared the exact same hair color as the founder of the Holy Empire, and for some reason, that was considered very significant. To make things even more ridiculous, people were now convinced that the Skeleton King himself was after this child, which was absolute nonsense. Of course, since Isaac is the Skeleton King, but these guys didn't know that yet. Relai, however, wasn't having any of it. He made it crystal clear. This kid was an Ishwa. He would be raised as an Ishwa. And it didn't matter if the Pope or the Skeleton King himself came knocking. The Ishwa family had more than enough strength to handle any threat that came their way. Among the many people interested in Isaac's existence One name stood out: Saintess Melissa. Apparently, she was eager to meet the so-called Skeleton King. Her family couldn't just let their direct descendant be handed over to the imperial family without knowing exactly who he was. And the moment Isaac heard that name, oh boy, pure terror, because, fun fact, Melissa was his final opponent in the divine realm, the most terrifying foe he had ever fought. And now, not only was he born into the family line of his greatest enemy, but he was also the direct descendant of the one woman who had beaten his ass the most. At this point, he was seriously questioning what in the actual hell was going on. But before we dive deeper into his suffering, let's rewind a bit and understand what a Santis actually is. Having been defeated countless times by the Skeleton King, humanity realized they needed something stronger. So they started forging Santises. These warriors were designed to be the ultimate weapons of war, created to punish evil and wield holy light magic. They were the highest ranked knights of the empire, meant to bring hope to the people who believed that finally the Skeleton King would meet his end. They were fast, they were strong. They had a crazy survival instinct. And worst of all, they only grew stronger over time. But for the Skeleton King, yeah, he didn't care. He massacred Sanas left and right. Not that he killed them, no. He just made sure they were defeated so badly they couldn't fight anymore. He knew that if they died, their holy energy would return to the gods, allowing even stronger sanities to be created in their place. So instead of giving them that advantage, he just broke them. And then there was Melissa, the final Santis he had ever faced, the most powerful opponent he had ever encountered. She was the only one who had ever pushed him to a near-death experience. And now, she was his ancestor. What a life to make matters worse. Rely, the very person raising Isaac, argued that the sole purpose of the Sanities was to defeat the Skeleton King. And guess what? The Ashua family was the only family capable of producing them. Their ultimate mission was to take down anyone who stood against the gods. Many Sanities had even sacrificed their lives, trying to challenge the Skeleton King, even though, again, he never actually killed them. Speaking of which, turns out, Isaac had accidentally trapped a Santis in a maze once. The funny part, he was actually trying to free her. She was just that shitty at navigating. 5 Santises straight up died of frustration. Instead of heading to the hospital to heal their injuries, they just gave up on life. Now back to reality, Rely gently comforted Isaac, assuring him that no matter what, they would protect him even if he was cursed. But in truth, Isaac was punching the air because he was the real victim here. Meanwhile, Rely was dead set on ensuring that the child had one purpose in life: to become anything other than the Skeleton King, which was hilarious considering that this was literally just the baby version of their ultimate nemesis. Isaac, feeling kind of guilty, mentally apologized for crushing his parents' dreams. By literally existing, the Emperor, however, was a bit more rational about things. He reminded Rely to use his head. The Skeleton King had been gone for over a century. There was no need to panic. And that's how Isaac learned something very important. He had reincarnated way into the future, meaning Melissa, the woman who had made his past life a living nightmare. Yes, she was long gone. With that realization, the Demon King's suffering finally eased. Just a little, the Emperor wasn't backing down. He argued that Isaac's powers were far too valuable to the imperial family, more important than anything else. He even pointed out that there weren't any Sineshas from House of Ashua serving at the moment, making it all the more logical for Ishak to stay under his protection. Meanwhile, our boy was sitting there completely fried. It had only been a year since he was born into this world, and his parents had already disappeared into thin air. Bro, they really said, "Sucks to be you, kid. Good luck." And just when he thought his day couldn't get any worse, he got hit with 8 different shocking realizations. But the worst, learning that his mother had been the head Santis of House of Ashua. Yeah, that was enough to make his soul want to yeet itself out of his tiny body. Oh, and remember how this genius thought Melissa was dead. Giano. Turns out, that persistent Santis was still very much alive, and still kicking ass. The fact that she had survived for nearly 2 centuries was straight up terrifying. Isaac could feel a headache forming. Even the Emperor noticed how utterly distraught he looked. At this point, Isaac was convinced his life was actually ruined. If his lifelong enemy was still alive and well, there was no way he'd survive. Once she uncovered his true identity as the Skeleton King, he could already picture it. One wrong move, and he'd be getting eviscerated on the spot. There was no way he wanted to face her in his tiny body, so, faced with the very real possibility of doom, he did the only thing he could do. Isaac chose the imperial family, and somehow, this little act of desperation came off as so adorable. that even he felt like swooning at himself. Rely, of course, wasn't about to let this slide, trying to play his cards right. He defended that Isaac was just being friendly, nothing more, nothing less. But the Emperor wasn't having it. He was adamant that the boy would be raised as his own, insisting that the imperial family had far more privileges to offer. On the other hand, Rely argued that House Ashua was literally built for raising saints. The kid was bound to become a demon slayer exorcist, and who better to guide him than a family that specialized in raising saints? And so, in a scene that was both ridiculous and hilarious, the two men started bickering like children, each tugging at a metaphorical limb, while his sack dangled between them, like some sacrificial offering. But our boy, he wasn't about to let himself get dragged into an uncertain future. He had already made up his mind, for the sake of his own survival. He turned to the Emperor again and chose him, because if there was one thing he was sure of, it was that the Emperor was his best bet at staying alive in the next scene. The ever-annoying bishop found himself standing before his cult, still utterly convinced that the boy was connected to the Demon King. His masters, however, were already fed up with his whining. They refused to accept the ridiculous claim that the power of light had been channeled through a demonic child. That was just too absurd to entertain. Desperate, the bishop tried to plead his case, insisting that he had seen the boy use mana with his own eyes. But the Holy See group had already made up their minds, and they weren't exactly the patient, open-minded type with zero hesitation. They lopped his head clean off, an immediate and rather permanent punishment for his blasphemous claims. As his head hit the floor, the leader of the group barely spared him a second glance. He had no interest in personally leading an attack squad against the boy. The way he saw it, the Emperor was bound to take Isaac under his wing anyway, and when that happened, they'd have plenty of chances to deal with him. Only this time, they were going to make it personal. Meanwhile, Isaac realizes he's been scooped up by the Ashua family. How do you end up here? Let's rewind a few days. Out of nowhere, a blinding beam of light throws everyone into confusion. And just like that, Rely does the unthinkable. He willingly gives up ownership of their child. His reason: he declares his place unfit for Isaac to grow up in. Gee, thanks for the thoughtful parenting. But the real bombshell: Isaac learns that the Ashua family actually has possession of the Skeleton King's corpse. Yeah, his corpse. His precious body. And they just casually bring this up now, really. Isaac doesn't waste time overthinking. He grabs Rely's finger and switches gears immediately. New plan go with the Ashua family. And all it takes is one well-placed, adorable smile to make the older brother completely melt. Too easy, that's how he ends up with the Ashua family instead of the royals. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. This isn't some lucky break. Nope, he's being dragged straight to the military, and his mission: steal back his own body. And this isn't just anybody. It's been refined with so much mana that it could go toe-to-toe with the gods. If he manages to get it back, he'll be unstoppable again. But then comes an unexpected twist. Rely suddenly shows an intense will to survive, practically radiating desperation. And if he's this worked up, that can only mean one thing: sticking with the Ashua family is actually Isaac's best shot at making it out of this mess alive. Fantastic, just what he wanted, to rely on other people. But there's a bigger mystery at play. Why is the Pope's faction so obsessed with Isaac? But even Isaac is drawing a blank here. Turns out a recent prophecy from the gods proclaimed that a saint would be born, the so-called child of the gods. And guess who fits the description? Yep, it's Isaac. This is very bad news for the Barrett family. For generations, they've been the ones producing popes. And now, a saint from the Ashua family is about to take their spotlight. No wonder they're absolutely losing it. And Isaac, he did not see this coming. The Pope isn't just some holy figure. He's the strongest cleric in existence, the only one capable of using 10th rank holy spells. This guy's power level is basically Emperor tier, complete with his own army of holy knights. So yeah, the bear is going completely unhinged. Makes perfect sense. They've had a monopoly on divine power for centuries, and now it's all slipping away. Out of nowhere, the coachman rushes over to Rely, looking more flustered than usual. There's a problem. Some group of men is blocking the entrance to the duchy. Great, just what they needed. Rely, already running on a short fuse, absolutely loses it. He howls at them, demanding to know why they dare stop a carriage bearing the Ashua family crest. But plot twist, these guys aren't just any troublemakers. Nope, they're straight up demonic, and their one and only mission: eliminate the child of the saintess at all costs. Isaac did not wake up today expecting yet another life-threatening situation. But here we are seriously. What the hell is wrong with a new Demon King? He watches as the demon forces smugly announce their mighty king's decree. Saints and sanities must be slain on sight. And just like that, Isaac's suspicions are confirmed. A new Demon King has taken over and completely thrown out the Skeleton Kings. Old orders, which means these fools are unknowingly trying to kill their own former demon lord. The irony, the demons, completely oblivious to who they're dealing with, generously offer a deal hand over the child, and they'll spare the rest. Reli's response, instant vaporization. A blinding thunderbolt reduces one of the demons to literal ashes. He's pissed beyond words that these creatures dare to say such nonsense. To an exorcist of Ashua, with his blade pointed at the enemy, Rely makes a fierce declaration. The Ashua family will not rest until every last evil creature is purged from this world. His group follows suit, swords drawn, ready to send these demons straight back to hell. Meanwhile, Isaac is just mildly entertained at the thought of his own former underlings trying to take his body seriously. Is this how far the demon race has fallen? But things escalate quickly. The demon kin, fully provoked, charge at them, and the battle erupts. To ensure the young master's safety, one of the guards whisks Sack away from the fight, leaving him utterly baffled by everything that just went down. If he's the Skeleton King, then who the hell is the imposter running around? Pretending to be him, Isaac is placed inside a bush. Yes, a bush, shielded by a powerful barrier. Not even high-ranking demons can break through this thing, so at least his safety is guaranteed. But there's a catch: he's completely stuck inside, and yeah, that's not happening time for a little magic. He closes his eyes, focusing, and in the most over-the-top, cosmic meditation session ever, he reaches out across the void and summons the one who watches. A ghostly demonic spirit appears, ecstatic to see his master after all this time. But before he can start fangirling too hard, Isaac quickly shushes him. No blowing things up today, thanks. This spirit was originally meant for simple detection magic, but somewhere along the way it developed a personality. And right now, it's really proud of Isaac. It actually congratulates him for pulling off the evilest scheme of all time, getting himself trapped inside a baby's body, as if this was all part of some grand master plan. The spirit is furious that its master has been locked inside a barrier. How dare these fools disrespect the great Skeleton King? But Isaac is so done with this nonsense. He cuts off the spirit's ranting and orders it to activate its detection magic now. Immediately, the spirit scans a 100-meter radius. The results: 88 enemy monsters. Okay, these guys are weak as hell compared to Isaac, but that's not the problem. The problem is the sheer number. If this battle drags on, security in this area is going to tighten, and that's going to be a major headache for him in the future, so he makes a decision. No more wasting time. He's about to unleash every last bit of his mana in a single devastating move. But he quickly realizes something interesting. The enemy's numbers are dropping fast. One moment, there are 31 left. Then suddenly it's down to 13. Okay, what the hell is going on out there on the battlefield? Only 4 demon soldiers remain, and Rely is already on high alert. There's a monster approaching, but the Demon King's soldiers, well, they're thrilled. They think a powerful new ally has joined the fight, finally giving them the chance to take down the Saint. Except that's not what happens. To everyone's absolute shock, this so-called ally immediately turns on the Demon Kin and wipes them out just like that. And now stepping onto the battlefield, looking as furious as ever, is none other than the Shadow Lich, the same high-level demon that attacked Isaac before. And let's just say he is not happy. Turns out, the Shadow Lich already knows Isaac's true identity from their last encounter, and that's exactly the problem. This guy is extremely devoted, and the idea that his king, Isaac, was trapped in the body of a child insulting. But since Sack freed him before, the Lich is now ridiculously loyal, ready to serve at a moment's notice. The battlefield is tense. The Shadow Lich stares at Ashua's line of defenses, and even Rely is struggling to figure out what's happening. The humans, thankfully, don't understand the demon's language. Otherwise, Isaac would probably be getting hunted down right now. What a Licho. He's way ahead of them. He's figured out Sack's identity, and that alone is enough to put the human forces on high alert. Then a cry from behind the barrier breaks the tension. Isaac the Knights immediately focus their attention on the baby, while the Shadow Licho, he's practically melting. His master just acknowledged him, and now he's swooning in pure affection. Ignoring everyone else, he sets his sights on Isaac. Reliance men, however, have no idea what's going on. To them, it looks like the Lich is about to attack the child. They don't realize he means no harm. He's just pissed that his king is trapped inside a tiny barrier. Meanwhile, Isaac doesn't waste time. He coolly instructs the Lich to break the barrier. and with a single earth-shattering smash, it's gone just like that. The king's order is fulfilled. Now rely on his men. Yeah, they're losing their minds. Isaac, on the other hand, is absolutely loving this reunion. But then because why not? He immediately double-crosses the Shadow Lich, sealing him inside a totem. The Lich, of course, is devastated and completely confused. One second he's out here protecting his king, and the next he's trapped again. Meanwhile, Rely is just standing there, absolutely baffled. Did they seriously just watch a child turn a high-ranked demon into a totem? Yes, they did. Not long after his grand achievement, the knights shower Isaac with praise, celebrating him like he's the second coming of the divine after all. He just used a holy spell. Except, well, he didn't the reality. He sealed a Shadow Lich using mana. Not divine magic, but Rely. He has no idea in his mind. Isaac pulled off some high-level holy spell, yet somehow no divine energy leaked out. A mystery indeed, but instead of questioning it, the knights assumed their young master acted purely on instinct, believing that Isaac was the greatest threat to the Shadow Lich at that moment. Determined to figure this out, Rely reconfigures his thoughts, because let's be honest, he needs to start thinking smarter. And right on cue, the leader of the Blue Division steps up, vowing to protect Isaac's future with his life. Now that's good news. It's in this moment that Rely realizes just how naive he's been. He was so caught up in fearing the Skeleton King's curse that he failed to see what was right in front of him. This boy isn't a burden. He's the best thing to ever happen to the Ashua family's honor. And with that, Rely makes a decision. He grabs the boy and in a rare moment of warmth, promises to personally train him into an incredible holy knight. Isaac beams at him, all cute and innocent except inside. He's plotting hard because, while Rely is busy dreaming about his bright future, Isaac has one goal in mind, getting back his original body. Meanwhile, Rely, deep in a moment, swears to protect him, no matter how short his life is. Wait, hold up. Sagg's brain screeches to a halt. He wants to rewind that real quick. What was that about the shortness of his life? Anyway, let's skip ahead to the Ashua Duchy, Isaac's so-called safe haven. And wow, what a safe haven it is. The place is a masterpiece, overflowing with beauty and wealth. And Isaac, he feels completely betrayed. Back in his territory, the Demon King were practically starving for resources, while he had to take responsibility just to keep everyone alive. Meanwhile, these guys living in absurd luxury. His detection spell even confirms that some of these sculptures alone are worth 10 Demon King castles 10. Their wealth is on Elon Musk levels, and Isaac is not happy about it. Rely gently places the boy inside his tiny casket, treating it like a delicate treasure. The Ashua residence isn't just rich. It's legendary, the birthplace of countless demon-slaying warriors. Rely wants the boy to watch the knights train, believing that one day he'll become just like them. Great, just what Isaac wanted. A front-row seat to his own nightmares. And as if on cue, those very knights are currently beating the absolute hell out of a Demon King training mannequin. Isaac watches, realizing one terrifying fact. He is screwed if they ever discover his true identity. It's game over, but no matter how bad things look, his goal hasn't changed. He's still planning to burn the Emperor alive and take over the Ashua Duchy. Even his own detection spell seems to think he's being petty for holding a grudge against kids. Does he care? Not one bit. The spirit gets to work scanning the area, and bingo, it finds mana cores scattered all over the place. Finally, some good news. Just then Rely arrives back home, instructing the servants to prepare a room for Isaac. But hold on, one of the butlers hesitantly speaks up. Apparently new orders have come in. Instead of staying in the main residence, Isaac is to be sent to the Annex Y, because the fifth young master of the Ashua family holds a deep grudge against him and has personally ordered it. Rely is pissed. The Annex is infamous. It's literally where someone met their end, and now Isaac is supposed to live there. Fantastic. Meanwhile, Isaac is having a great time, watching the Ashua family fall apart from the inside. Dysfunction and fighting. Oh, this is delicious. Rely, however, can't understand why his brother is making this call. Isaac, of course, is furious at the idea of being sent there, until his detection spell conveniently reminds him that there are also plenty of manicures resting in the Annex. Maybe this isn't the worst thing ever. But Rely refuses to take the kid to such a haunting place. Instead, he wants to read him holy scriptures as bedtime stories. And just like that, Isaac realizes he's being tortured in his own family. As Rely is taking his sack away, the fifth young master suddenly shows up, radiating arrogance like it's his full-time job. He wastes no time, reminding everyone of his so-called orders to send the boy to the Annex. And just like that, Isaac comes face to face with Ashua, the fifth son of the family. One glance at this guy is enough for Isaac to conclude. Yep, just another typical delinquent. The kind that thinks the world revolves around him. And to make matters worse, he doesn't even acknowledge Isaac as a person. Open his eyes. The kid is just a thing, not a descendant of the family. Rely, of course, is having none of it and strongly opposes him. Meanwhile, Isaac is almost convinced that this new clown is just another member of some secret. We hate Isaac Club. Seriously, why do people keep picking fights with a 1-year-old? Then again, Isaac himself thinks going to the annex wouldn't be the worst idea. Certainly better than wasting time listening to pointless arguments. But Guy just keeps running his mouth, insulting the kid like it's a sport. At this point, Isaac is genuinely baffled. Why is this grown man beefing with a literal toddler? The levels of pettiness here are astronomical. Still, Isaac has made up his mind. He's going to the annex to get his hands on some mana cores. Rely, however, instantly shuts that idea down, arguing that sending him there will make people think he's cursed. And that's when it hits Isaac. Oh shit, he almost made a huge mistake. His whole plan was to drain the mana cores dry, ascend to the status of saint and pope, and then finally exact revenge on the gods. Gowl, still on his nonsense, points out that a demon specifically came to target Isaac. In his mind, that's all the proof needed. The kid is definitely cursed. The leader of the Blue Division counters this, reminding everyone that it was Isaac's intervention that led to the demon's defeat. They all keep bringing up his supposed saintly powers, but Jaol couldn't care less. He just keeps talking, referring to Isaac as a pile of garbage, over and over again, which shockingly doesn't sit well with the kid. Even the detection spell is feeling the disrespect. If it had a voice, it would probably be yelling, "Hey Isaac, how about we just casually drop a meteor shower on this guy and call it day?" Gowl, on the other hand, is perfectly fine, acknowledging that Isaac might be a saint, but he's got his own agenda. He smugly reminds everyone of the family crest and suggests that instead of all this back and forth, they should put the boy to work. Specifically, he wants Isaac to revive something very precious to their lord, the holy tree. That tree yet died, all thanks to the overwhelming mana of powerful demons. But according to Jaol, if Isaac really possesses saintly powers, then he should be able to bring it back to life, right? No pressure, just casually resurrecting a centuries-old sacred tree as a literal baby. Rely, at this point, is convinced that Gao has lost his damn mind. Isaac, on the other hand, is having a different realization. Melissa really left behind some seriously unhinged descendants. First, her son vanished. Then her second son ended up getting adopted. And now this. It's like she left a trail of chaos in her wake. And then something catches Sack's eye. Without thinking, he literally chucks his detection spirit at it. The dead tree has been sitting there, untouched for 70 years. And yet Gowl, this absolute lunatic, expects a baby to waltz in and magically bring it back to life on the spot. Both of them freeze when they catch sight of the holy tree, now bursting with life, as full and vibrant as ever. It actually came back to life, leaving Gao completely speechless, stuttering for words, like his brain just short-circuited. He Sacked, on the other hand, not impressed to him. It was nothing special. He just had the spirit suck out all the bad mana, and boom, problem solved. But Relay's men, they're absolutely stunned. Even Relay himself is struggling to process what just happened. Everyone around them is celebrating, convinced they just witnessed yet another miracle from a boy. Jaol, however, refuses to accept this nonsense. He's still wrapping his head around the fact that a mere child pulled off something so unimaginable, something no one in their family could ever accomplish. First, it was exorcism, now it's purification. Seriously, at this point, Gao is convinced that his brother is playing some elaborate trick on him. Fuming, he lashes out at Relay, accusing him of secretly receiving help from the saints and deliberately putting on some stage performance. His outrage only escalates the situation further, and Isak, watching all this unfold, can't help but think that Melissa's household needs some serious therapy. Honestly, these guys are acting crazier than the demons. But here's another weird thing. Gal doesn't even look like Melissa. Suspicion rises that he might actually be a half-brother. And to make things even more interesting, his appearance fits the Pope's family way too well. Coincidence? Probably not. Jaol, still losing his mind, starts howling accusations at Relay, claiming he's staging an act when they already have a saint candidate. In the Ashua family, wait, what? This is news to Isaac. He just found out he's got a competitor, and judging by Gao's reaction, he's definitely rooting for the other guy. Isaac, meanwhile, is just standing there, wondering if this second candidate is just as foolish as the rest of these lunatics. Relay steps in, trying to talk some sense into his brother, reminding him of the kid's importance and his right to leave the house. But Gao, no, he's not having it instead. He throws insults at his older brother, calling him a coward and a weakling for running away. And now Isaac is being treated like some bastard child. Among the issues, which honestly is the least surprising thing about this family. But Gal isn't done, yet he drops a haunting theory. What if Isaac isn't even their brother's son after all? His face only matches the description of the Santis. That's the last straw. Rely, absolutely livid, doesn't waste time arguing. He just swings a fist straight into Gal's face. A well-deserved punch for spewing baseless accusations. Sack, meanwhile, he's having the time of his life, watching them tear each other apart. Well, actually, it's more of a one-sided massacre. Relay's just straight up beating the hell out of Gal. And to be honest, Isaac likes this chaos. It's the perfect setup for him to take over later. The more these guys fight, the easier his path to power becomes. But before he can fully enjoy his little victory, the demon spirit politely reminds him, if this entire household collapses, he's going down with it, so yeah, maybe not the best long-term plan. Next scene, Isaac was really living up to the whole helpless baby thing, just sitting there like a clueless potato, smack in the middle of a room full of family bigwigs, all of whom clearly wanted him gone. The tension, thick enough to cut with a damn butter knife. Every person at that table looked like they were ready to declare war on a toddler, but just when it felt like the whole room might erupt, the acting matriarch Hannah Ashua shut everyone up with a single cold command. She made it crystal clear her decision was final. The boy would be raised in a minor house, far away from the spotlight. And then she turned her gaze to Rely, the guy who brought the baby in, basically asking, what the hell were you thinking? Hannah wasn't even subtle about it. Her tone dripped with contempt. And that was all Isaac needed to see. The woman had already chosen her side, and it definitely wasn't his. Meanwhile, Gao, still rocking a freshly broken nose, and the attitude of someone who's never heard the word humility, looked like he belonged on a throne of smugness. Just as annoying as ever and still painfully bitchless. Rely, for his part, didn't answer Hannah directly. Instead, he played it cool, tossing out the fact that the actual head of the family wasn't around to make any decisions. Hannah shot back that the patriarch was off, dealing with the saint candidate mess. Classic political dodge. Then came the real my drop. Relly casually dropped the news that the baby sitting in front of them, Isaac, or more properly Ashua, was the one who had revived the holy tree. The entire room damn near short-circuited. Jael and the others sat frozen in disbelief. He even tried to downplay it, but even the rest of the family members were shook. After all, even the patriarch himself hadn't been able to solve the tree issue. So how the hell did this baby pull it off? Hannah, ever the pragmatist, pointed out the obvious: there was no proof. She wasn't buying it. That's when Isaac finally decided. He was done letting them talk trash. He unleashed his magic like a boss, dropping a glowing crystal on the table, pulsing with the energy of the holy tree. The stunned silence that followed priceless. Every smug face in the room got wiped clean. Now, they all had to accept it. The baby did it. He removed the corrupted mana from the holy tree, and even came with receipts. Some of them were still reeling, trying to process how the hell a newborn had managed to pull this off, and still live to tell the tale. Honestly, if he'd screwed it up even a little, he could have killed the damn tree. And that's why back in the day, the patriarch had been so obsessed with finding a stable purification method. Gao, on the other hand, looked like his brain was about to explode. He couldn't believe anyone was actually entertaining this crap. He started screaming at the elders, demanding to know how the hell they were buying into the idea that a baby, a literal baby, could pull off something so impossible. He even threw shade at Isaac's appearance, pointing at the blonde-haired kid and ranting that he didn't even look like he belonged to the bloodline. Meanwhile, Isaac just vibing, sitting quietly at the table, while everyone lost their damn mind around him. Then Rely stepped in again, full of fire, saying that this boy had done what no one else could in 70 years. Hell, he even said Isaac had the potential to become saint, or maybe even the next pope if he put his heart into it. Isaac, to his credit, was still rolling with the punches, until someone decided to take things too far. They actually held him up like freaking Simba, and suggested tossing him in a battle to slay the damn skeleton king. Yeah, that's where the line was drawn. The elders immediately perked up at the mention of that name. Their ancient enemy, meanwhile, Hannah just smirked, probably thinking Rely had just sealed his own fate with that reckless idea. And so she proposed a test for the boy. Nothing casual, of course. She suggested pulling something out of the divine relic storage to see what the kid was really made of. Because sure, the baby might have revived a holy tree, but could he handle a cursed artifact from hell? The scene cuts, and now we're over the patriarch side. Grumpy old man gets a ping. Someone's asking for access to the divine relic storage. His first instinct, hell no. No one from the Holy See is allowed near it. But plot twist, it's not them. It's his own damn grandson. The guy nearly chokes on air when he hears. The holy tree's been revived. By his bloodline, no less. A saint from his family. That's got to be a bug in the simulation. Elijah, the grand, old patriarch himself, is still like, nah, deny because that device. It's built different, only saints survive that madness. But just as he's laying down the law boom, Melissa enters like a walking goddess regal, untouchable, the whole divine glow package. She finds out it's Isaac taking the trial, and doesn't even blink. The kid revived a literal holy tree. How could she not be impressed? Melissa flips the table. She wants all saint and saints candidates tested. At once, yes. There's a risk some random brat could steal something from storage, but she's cool with it, because if anyone actually manages that, they might just be strong enough to curb stomp the Skeleton King once and for all. Oh, and to spice things up, she slaps a reward on it. The winner gets the Ashua household's generational heirloom, and to top it off, she'll personally teach them the family secret technique. Now, that's motivation. So what's this divine relic storage anyway? It's not just a fancy vault. It's a damn ancient war zone of secrets and relics, locked away for thousands of years, guarded by Santises, owned by the Ashuas for generations. Only kids under 10 can go in. Don't ask why. Probably because adults would straight up die. It's become a twisted rite of passage. A dangerous little game where future saints go in, grab something, and come out with powers people try to predict. Emphasis on try. Many didn't even make it back. And after enough kitty fatalities, the storage seals itself off. The demon spirit chilling with Isaac. He's having a field day, teasing his master about how he'll probably die there. But Isaac, being the lunatic baby genius he is hyped. He's got one goal: retrieve his old body from inside that cursed vault. Then the captain of the Blue Division shows up with another bombshell new order from the matriarch. The storage is open for all candidates. 5 from each major household are coming. It's about to be a bloodbath, but everyone's already betting on Isaac, like he's the main character or something. And honestly, he's chill with that. More competitors mean more chaos. More chances to sneak around and do his thing. Classic misdirection before he enters. Rely grabs him and gives the be careful speech. Demons from the battlefield are also inside the storage. His act's like easy, thinking they'll be weak as fuck. One hit and done, but Rely drops the real threat. 8th ranked demons as a baby. Isaac's soul leaves his body for a second. That's not even the worst part. There's also a 9th ranked dragon in there. Even the demon spirit is like, these Ashuas are fucking insane. Who the hell puts a goddamn dragon in a death dungeon? For toddlers still. The demon thinks it's fine. His master knows all about dragons, right? Wrong. Isaac is sweating bullets. Nails bit into the nub. Why? Because he has history. He once scammed a bunch of dragons. Sold them off like used cars. Now they got beef. And they'll recognize his soul on sight. The demon spirit, already thinking about switching masters. Meanwhile, baby genius realizes he's got to strategize. With his current power, he can handle 6th ranked demons at best. So a new plan, get those manicures from the annex. That's priority 1, but man, Isaac is spiraling. He's holding a literal guidebook on how to kill the Skeleton King, flipping pages like a madman. Too bad he doesn't have holy powers. Can't learn holy spells. And if he even tries using magic here, he'll get labeled a demon. Instant execution. He's struggling with the theory side of holy magic too. This kid's built to hustle. Not pray. Rely finally returns to scoop him up. It's been a long day, and yeah, Isaac needs a solid 16 hours of sleep to function like a proper murder baby. So Rely uses a regeneration spell on him. Full recovery, and Isaac immediately fanboying. He wants Rely to show him all the attack spells. Now the demon reminds his master that they've still got to get to the annex. So what does Isaac do? Pulls out the Oscar performance of the year. Pretend to fall asleep like comically perfect snoring. Limp the whole package. Rely buys it completely. Even the demon spirit is baffled. These Ashuas really are too naive. Isaac snapped back to his senses the moment he overheard the commotion. About the damn totem, apparently. They were planning to lock it away for safekeeping, which of course was terrible news for him, considering he needed that thing for his resurrection. Poor guy looked like he was about to bawl his soul out. No totem, no manicore access. No chance at surviving the next few days. He was practically in panic mode, already plotting to steal mana from the annex. Like it was some magical heist movie, with full Mission Impossible energy. Isaac made his slow, dramatic crawl toward the exit. He signaled the spirit to open the door. Yep, he had a plan. A shaky one, but still a plan. Except the moment he hit the ground, reality kicked him in the teeth. Rely had locked the door on his way out, and even added a holy seal for extra trouble. Of course he did. Isaac begged the spirit to break it, but the spirit hesitated. That kind of stunt would raise all sorts of alarms. One wrong move, and they'd all assume he was a demon or something worse. While Isaac was still brewing up Plan B, the door suddenly flung open, slamming into his face naturally. And who walks in? Some 5-year-old brat named Shuri, the son of Jael and apparently one of Isaac's so-called rival for the Saint candidate position. Yeah, you heard that right. A rival. This pint-sized genius was pissed off that a literal baby outperformed him. He marched in all full of ego, declaring he'd be the saint no matter what. And just like that, Isaac found himself beefing with a 5-year-old. Like it was a turf war without hesitation. Isaac just rammed a wooden mallet into the kid's face. Nothing fatal, just a solid bonk to claim the role of alpha toddler. Shuri screamed in pain, but Isaac wasn't done. He chased him down, slapping the poor kid around, until Shuri was forced to throw up a holy barrier. In defense, that's when Isaac paused. Surprised the brat could actually use barrier magic. Not bad, then things escalated. Shuri whipped out a 3rd-rank holy attack spell, like he was about to nuke the place. Isaac was honestly impressed, until he one-upped him by dropping an even stronger barrier, blocking the spell like it was child's play. Shuri's jaw hit the floor. A 1-year-old, casually casting next-level magic with no training. It shattered his world. Isaac wasn't done yet. He pointed at Shuri like a smug villain, signaling him to try again, grinning like he was having the time of his life. Bullying a fellow kid, the demon spirit chimed in, reminding him that maybe beating the crap out of Ashua air wasn't the smartest move. But Isaac wasn't planning to go full psycho. None of his attacks actually connected with any fatal intent. He just wanted to rattle the little bastard. Embarrassed and angry, Shuri spat some insults until the shadow lich showed up. Yep, the same horrifying guardian that would murder first and ask questions never. The moment Shuri laid a hand on Isaac, that thing manifested like death itself. The kid dropped to his knees in pure terror, practically wetting himself as he begged for mercy. Isaac, meanwhile, just stared him down like a villain, straight out of drama, smirking, as he told the brat to become his new transport vehicle. Nos cham sido merci. Just pure baby domination. Shuri, Ashua, 5 years old, son of Gal, full of pride and secret dreams of becoming pope someday, now reduced to a terrified Uber driver for a 1-year-old maniac with a lich for a bodyguard. Scene cuts to our pint-sized tyrant, yeah, the former demon king, riding Shuri like a goddamn racehorse. The kid's holding his milk bottle like a damn compass, barking orders like to the annex now. Poor Shuri dragging his feet, groaning under his breath, clearly not signing up for this babysitting side quest. But just as he's about to open his mouth and protest, bam, Shadow Lich shows up like a mafia debt collector, staring him down like keep whining bug, and you won't make it out alive. Yeah, that shut him up. Cut to a little later, Shuri's huffing puffing, dragging the boss baby, right in front of the second annex. One look at the creepy place, and this poor 5-year-old's legs are shaking. Haunted house, bro. That's the Ashua's cursed annex. Rumor has it the place straight up murks people. Patriarch banned it for a reason. Shuri's out here having a full-on panic attack, while our toddler and his spooky pet, Whisper, are plotting high-stakes wizardry in the background, like it's just another Tuesday. Isaac's eyes sparkle. Mana levels here are so jacked. They're practically oozing off the walls. It's the perfect place to train if you're a lunatic. He tugs Shuri's ear like a joystick, ready to dive in, but the brown-haired mule resists, blabbering about rules and how babies shouldn't be crawling into death zones. Too bad for him. Whisper pops back out and gives him the scare of a lifetime boom. Shuri's trembling, no longer questioning orders. Inside the annex, straight-up disaster zone, dilapidated as hell. Whisper scans the place and drops the bad news. Every door is wrapped in barrier magic. Isaac's disappointed, like a gamer who just hit a boss level, without a save point. Meanwhile, Shuri's still losing his shit, begging to leave, but Isaac's patience is non-existent. He yanks Shuri's poop-colored hair again, and keeps moving. Then they spot portraits on the wall. Old patriarchs, probably glaring in ghost form. Shuri explains what they are, and Isaac, with zero shame, asks if he's planning on becoming the next patriarch. Shuri, suddenly hyped again, flexes that he'll absolutely take the top spot one day. Our baby villain just hums and hatches a plan. He notices the barriers around the portraits and casually whips out his glowing red milk bottle. Yes, that's his wand now, and smashes the barrier like it's child's play. Shuri, practically on the verge of tears. The dudes, wailing about how they're defiling ancestral spirits. While Isaac's over here like, who the hell puts barriers on paintings? Whisper confirms the barrier's broken, and our tiny chaos lord is thrilled. He leaps off Shuri's back does a freaking barrel roll like it's an action movie, and rushes to the door. Shuri panics, screaming, asking where he's going now. Too bad. Door slams shut in his face. Whisper locks it behind them, and now the poor kid's stuck outside. Isaac, in pure villain mode, tells him to mind his damn business, and starts his mana absorption ritual. Shuri's at his limit. He threatens to tell the grown-ups everything, and starts banging on the door like a narc. That's when the real horror begins. Adults show up. Bad timing, nah. This is cosmic karma. Shuri's ready to rat the toddler out, but before he can get a single syllable out, an ancient hag storms in and nukes his life with a lecture. Shuri's face drains of color. She doesn't even wait for excuses, calls him reckless, blames him for dragging a baby into hell, says everyone saw him carrying Isaac around like a backpack. Then she hits him with a big one, asks if the holy magic in Isaac's room was his doing. Shuri's speechless, nothing to say, because who the hell would believe that a literal baby broke divine barriers, bullied a saint candidate, and hijacked an annex that silenced ya? It's about to ruin his whole damn life. Uncle Rely steps in with that stern, "I'm disappointed in you" energy, dropping a heavy hand on Shuri's shoulder. His face is dead serious, no warmth. No jokes, just that classic "you done messed up" stare. He doesn't yell, but damn, his words sting. Calls out Shuri for bullying a literal newborn. Says he's out here picking fights with a baby who probably hasn't even stopped drinking milk yet. Cold, then like nothing just happened. Rely turns to the door and lightly knocks on a sealed magical door, asking a newborn if he's stuck inside. Absolute legend behavior. The door opens. And what do they see? Our boy Isaac, sitting there, eyes wide, face pale, looking like he's seen the gates of hell. Wailing, trembling. The whole works. The old lady rushes over in panic, fussing over the poor little thing, who is left all alone. She's full on heartbroken, ready to call child services. Shuri, meanwhile, is seconds away from combusting. He's glaring at Isaac like he's about to explode. His hands are clenched, his eyes twitching. He's just one goo goo gaga away from throwing hands again. And then it happens. Shuri straight up loses it, yelling like he just got betrayed by life itself. The old lady blinks, confused as hell. Like, why is this 5-year-old foaming at the mouth over a baby? Maybe the room's a little too cold for his brain to function. While all this drama unfolds, Isaac is just vibing cozy in Riley's arms, happy as a goddamn clam. His tiny hands tighten into little fists, soaking in all that delicious magic, like it's a warm blanket and a hot chocolate. The smug little bastard's satisfied to the core, because that crazy amount of mana he just absorbed, that kind of stash, usually takes decades to collect. And now that it's all his, our boy's ready. He's out a plan, and that mountain of mana is about to fuel whatever chaos he's about to unleash. The next day, Uncle Rely decides it's time to step in. He walks into Isaac's room, accompanied by a woman, whom he introduces as his assistant. The elegant woman steps forward and reveals her name, Asalai Archie, conveniently. She's also a holy knight from the Ashua household. After finishing her introduction, she bows gracefully to Isaac and pledges her unwavering loyalty, swearing to serve him wholeheartedly until her dying breath. Isaac, still just a toddler, begins to wonder if all this is somehow tied to what happened the night before. Putting on his best spooky baby act, he politely asks the woman to leave, but the moment gets awkward pretty quickly because the lady doesn't budge. Instead, her face flushes red as she bashfully asks if she can pinch Isaac's cheek. Now Isaac is left confused, unsure what exactly this woman's deal is, especially in a household already filled with weirdos. While this is happening, Uncle Rely reaches into his inner coat pocket and pulls out a ring, a special gift just for Isaac. But as Isaac eyes the simple-looking ring, he can't help but wonder if Uncle Rely picked it up from some trash bin. After inspecting the item more closely, both he and his pet start thinking that maybe the Ishvar household is going through a serious financial crisis. Just then, the lady assistant catches a glance of the ring and suddenly gasps, asking if that's the saint's heirloom, a sacred treasure reserved for a chosen few. Uncle Rely smiles proudly and pats Isaac's head, explaining that he personally requested this ring as a birthday gift from the council for Isaac's first birthday. Now, curious Isaac starts wondering if the ring is actually the real deal. As far as he remembers, it's the exact same artifact the saint is used in their previous battle, something called the Elder Ring, a powerful relic rumored to hold divine energy that transcends this world. Realizing this, the kid can't help but get excited, thinking about the holy power sealed inside, even though the ring might break. After 2 uses as the former Skeleton King, he's already got a plan in mind for how to fix it. His suspicions about the ring's authenticity are quickly confirmed when Uncle Gao Lashua shows up and eyes the ring with obvious envy. Without wasting time, this jealous man walks up to Isaac, calling him his adorable little nephew. though it's clear he's got something shady in mind, most likely stealing the ring. He starts cozying up to Isaac, just like he used to sweet-talk Isaac's father. Whenever he wanted something, Isaac wonders if the guy has completely lost his mind. But truth be told, Uncle Gowl is caught up in a way messier situation than he expected. He's actually the one who broke the blessing device Isaac was supposed to receive, and intentionally made sure Isaac never got it. What he didn't count on, though, was that Rely would go so far as to give the Sainus' heirloom to make up for it. Even before Isaac got his hands on the ring, Gow had already tried everything to convince the old woman to give it to Shuri instead. But nothing worked. No matter what he said or how hard he begged, the old hag shut him down every time, warning him not to be so greedy. Now grinding his teeth in frustration, Jael fumed silently, thinking that no one truly understands how valuable the ring is. He starts arguing with Rely, saying that if he really wanted to give Isaac a proper gift, he could have chosen something decent instead of this worthless trinket. But Rely isn't backing down. He insists the ring is far from useless. Jael, not missing a beat, responds by saying Isaac is incredibly precious to him, and he'd never give his dear nephew something so meaningless. With a sneaky grin, he pulls out another ring of his own and shows it off, claiming that this one contains divine magic that surpasses worldly limits and was personally brought from the Sanasatas. The Holy See. Gowl starts explaining that the relic is an extremely rare item, capable of storing objects, something Rely could have never gotten for Isaac. Then, trying to tempt the toddler, Gowl brings the ring close, hoping Isaac will trade his current ring for it. But instead, the infant smacks his hand away. To Gowl's shock, Isaac brushes off the new ring as useless junk and smugly proves him wrong, boldly asserting that Gowl couldn't fool him. To drive the point home, the toddler even tosses the valuable ring aside, completely unimpressed watching this unfold. Rely is left, wondering why his nephew chose the ring he gave him over one that seemed thousands of times more valuable. Overjoyed by Isaac's decision, Rely tosses the little guy into the air in celebration. Meanwhile, Gowl is frantically ordering his servants to search the water for the ring, believing it to be priceless. But the flying toddler knows they'll never find it. He secretly casts weight magic on it to make sure of that his pet praises him, clearly impressed, saying Isaac always lives up to expectations. But Isaac, calm as ever, casually tells him to retrieve it at dawn. Meanwhile, Gow is having a total breakdown, crying, yelling and fuming, because his precious fortune ring has vanished, and none of his men can retrieve it. Later, he slams his fist on the table in frustration. Ranting in his room, he grumbles that the toddler has no idea how much it cost him to get that storage ring. With a sigh, he convinces himself that Isaac will never be able to actually use the Elder Ring. After all, activating its power requires absorbing the holy energy of at least 20 people, something Jael finds laughably impossible. He mocks Isaac, further predicting that not even 10 people will show up to his birthday. But the next day delivers a shocking twist. An overwhelming crowd of nearly 4,000 people turns up. Among them are more than 148 saint candidates. The Grand Dukes, several marquis families, and even the Emperor himself are present. Seeing the crowd, Isaac is annoyed, wondering why so many saint candidates are popping up like scattered seeds in the wind. Uncle Gowl, resting his chin in his hand, admits he never expected such a massive turnout. While he's still processing it all, counts him and appears out of nowhere. Without delay, Gow asked what brought Simon here. Smiling, Simon replies that the rumors spread fast, and there was no way he'd miss something this huge. He even questions how Rely expected to keep him locked in after all the risks the Ashua family has taken. With a smirk, Simon drops another bombshell. The Pope's own family will be attending. Gow laughs it off, calling it nonsense. According to him, there's no way the Pope's family would show up, especially considering how much they despise commoners. But Simon doesn't back down. He bluntly states how deep that hatred runs. Before he can say more, Rely urgently tells him to lower his voice, warning that even walls can hear. Still, Simon refuses to hold his tongue, especially now that his own son, Armin, has been chosen as a saint candidate. Rely continues urging him to be careful with his words. As tensions rise, a chilling presence enters the room. Bishop Barrett arrives silently, sending an eerie wave through the air. With a smug smile, he immediately insults Rely, calling him weak and unfit for hosting such a grand ceremony. His scorn turns toward Rely's family, as he questions whether their saint candidate could ever bring honor to their name. Throughout the land, it's common knowledge that, while boys of the Ashua bloodline are known for their good looks, they're considered utterly useless. People often try to drain their power and gain favor with the Barrett's Pope by sabotaging these children. One such long-standing tactic includes sneaking poisoned milk into the hands of these infants disguised as innocent pranks. The true goal: infuse their drinks with a mix of toxins, including holy poison, to destroy their sacred power. These cruel tricks usually turn babies into cautionary tales, but this time things go entirely off script. Children nearby watch in complete shock as our young hero chugs down the poison bottles like they're just flavored water. After finishing one, he turns toward the horrified saint candidates, silently demanding more. Not only is he unaffected, he begins terrorizing them, throwing empty bottles at their feet and driving them to the verge of tears. Frozen with fear, the children whisper among themselves, overwhelmed by the tyrannical baby in front of them. Their nerves unravel further when he gulps down a bottle, spiked with diarrhea medication, without even flinching. One by one, the would-be saints realize the bitter truth. Not a single drop of poison has made even a scratch on this unstoppable baby. Amid all the rising despair, Shuri, the proud heir of the family, found the entire situation deeply humiliating. Their noble pride was being crushed by a mere baby, and it was unbearable. Frustrated, he suddenly snatched the bottle from the baby's hand, demanding if he was really that thirsty. But instead of more poison water, he handed over a clean bottle of plain water. The baby, however, looked thoroughly unimpressed. Regular water meant nothing to him. What fueled him was poison. Without a second thought, he chucked the bottle straight to Shuri's face, then turned to another boy, practically begging for water laced with poison. One of the candidates hesitated, his hands trembling to thought. Offering poison water felt like signing a death warrant. But before he could pull away, the baby attacked without warning, launching into a scuffle for the magical juice. Around them, the others whispered nervously, trying to make sense of the madness. Some started to wonder if the monstrous baby had already unlocked the legendary Fable Detoxification Mogith. Their delusions went even further. Some convinced themselves that maybe this terrifying baby wasn't a villain, but a hidden savior trying to protect them from poison. Before that thought could settle, a powerful new presence swept into the room, instantly commanding attention. A white-haired boy walked in, radiating confidence, brushing off the wild theory that a baby could be so noble. Shuri jumped to his feet in confusion. Why on earth was Kinabari here? Even he hadn't heard a whisper about the Pope's son. Joining the trial, the entire room fell silent. All eyes on the newcomer, a single question hung heavy. Why would the Pope's own son want the saint's relics? A sense of defeat crept over the candidates. As reality hit, if Kina Barrett had entered, what chance did any of them have? Meanwhile, our hero just stared at the pompous boy unamused. This guy looked like he was born to be the next saint, but something didn't sit right. Every Barrett was supposedly born with ugly colored hair, and yet this one had flawless snow-white strands. Was it bleached before the baby could dwell on it? Kina grinned smugly and brushed off any doubts. According to him, it was only fair for him to be here, since the Pope ruled over everything. Even the saint's relic vault technically belonged to his family. His laughter echoed through the room, soaked in entitlement, as if he were just taking back what was rightfully his. Sipping his water, the smug baby watched the scene unfold, half amused by the guy's inflated ego. But under that arrogance, there was something real. Kina's holy power was insane, easily dwarfing the bishops. With a dramatic flair, Kina began scolding the others for their disgraceful behavior, poisoning their own host, a baby. When he asked what they thought they were achieving, the room went dead silent. Then came the claim. The baby hadn't detoxified the poison himself. It was the saint's divine power protecting him. Hearing that, our little tyrant couldn't help but think these people lacked basic logic. Kina, playing the noble savior, cast a detoxification spell to show off his advanced magic. Everyone stared in awe, but the baby had seen enough of this spoiled prince. Flaunting his power with a swift move, he smashed his tiny fist into Kina's face. One of the boys gasped. Kina's holy power vanished instantly. The stunned Barrett stood frozen, unable to understand what just happened. The baby slipped from his grip, leaving Kina shaken, wondering how a toddler just nullified his magic. As he watched the baby crawl away, Kina cursed under his breath. The baby shot him a death glare in return, ready to bash his head in. But before he could strike, Shuri jumped in, tackling him to stop things from spiraling even further. The Barrett boy glared coldly as the rest trembled, terrified of how the Pope's family might respond to an attack like that. Pinned down by Shuri's full weight, the baby couldn't land another blow. Kina, thinking it beneath him to fight a toddler, turned away with smug arrogance, tossing out a final remark. He wished the baby luck and challenged him to at least try redeeming his family's honor. Burning with rage, The tyrannical toddler struggled to keep it together. But most of his restraint came from the simple truth. He was still stuck under Shuri's grip, with one last cocky remark, Sina elegantly annonces, that he's going to claim the ultimate prize. The Skeleton King's body, after all. A weak little Ishvara runt wouldn't even get close. Even Shuri's had enough of the guy's over-the-top attitude. But our hero isn't letting it slide. He grabs his cousin and shakes him around, demanding clarity on what Kina meant. Not used to baby knees. The confused boy crouches awkwardly as he's rattled back and forth until his eyes suddenly widen in realization. He remembers Melissa's promise. Whoever returns with the Skeleton King's remains would learn her secret technique. The revelation hits him hard. Damn it. His own mom put a bounty on his glorious skeletal self. After some chaos, the scene calms down, and all the Saint candidates gather for the trial. Bored out his mind, our hero drifts into memories of his glory days, back when he was the Skeleton King, brimming with centuries of mana. All he wants now is to reclaim that power. But a crowd of greedy kids stands in his way. Frustrated, the baby hurls his bottle aside, ready to crush anyone who gets in his way. Shuri shudders, almost as if he knows what's coming. Just then a robe man from the Holy See steps forward and tells the candidates to follow his instructions. He gathers the group and starts a long, drawn-out history lecture. Our almighty baby is completely unimpressed. It's a total waste of time, so he decides to leave. Shuri tries to stop him, but with a single flick of his tiny foot, the baby rockets off faster than a cannonball. The deafening boom grabs everyone's attention, leaving Shuri frozen and speechless. Meanwhile, our hero activates his recently learned spell, High-Speed Stride, and dashes straight into the restricted zone. The history teacher shouts in panic, warning that the area is packed with traps. It takes a moment before the rest realize what's going on. And suddenly, a full-on chase begins for the runaway baby. Back at the Ashun Mansion's banquet hall, Asila expresses her concern about him. Everyone's gathered around a magical orb, watching the trial unfold. A commentator announces that they've connected magical familiars to track each candidate's movement in real time. The nobles, including Relai, are shocked when they hear the first door has already been opened. In third place is Armin's son of Relai's loudmouth friend. Then comes Shuri Aswan's second. With dramatic flair, the announcer reveals the front runner. Our baby boy, everyone's jaw drops, as the magic orb displays a baby tearing through a trap-filled chamber, with a church official chasing behind him. The old man is running for dear life, terrified the toddler might die. But Shuri steps on a trap and gets caught in its blast. Some candidates burst into tears, calling for their parents, while others rush ahead, hoping to get over with. Through it all, Shuri wails and curses his insane cousin for stirring up chaos from the very beginning. He begs him to stop triggering the traps, but the supersonic baby couldn't care less about the loser's opinion. He storms right up to the second trial's gate, grinning smugly. Whisper, floating beside him proudly, says he's evolved after absorbing the mana from the annex. Our boy simply smirks. Great. Now he can go even harder. With a wave of his tiny arm, he orders his familiar to bring his mount. The ghost groans about how exhausting it's been, but obeys as they chat. One kid points at Shuri and wonders how the Ashua boy is flying. The others start grumbling, suspecting some hidden family training. Meanwhile, Shuri has mentally accepted his fate, while Whisper floats around gleefully. The ghost finally drops Shuri, face first beside its master. Still weeping, Shuri begs his cousin to stop the madness. He warns him that, even though he lucked out in the first trial, one mistake in the second could be fatal, as Shuri tries to explain the purpose of the trial, how it forces candidates to face their deepest fears. The baby zaps him in annoyance. Fed up with the lecture, after a bit of fun, he orders Shuri to explain it again, barely keeping it together. Shuri insists that the worst thing they could do is attack their opponent, but our boy just stares, clearly wondering why he'd ever sit back and do nothing. Shuri explains that the trial is all about patience. They must sit still for 3 whole minutes, while facing their fear if they mess up. Both of them are done for, unbothered by the typical trial setup. Our demon king casually makes his way to the gates, ignoring Shuri's repeated warnings. He steps into the trial with complete ease, convinced it's going to be a breeze. The moment he touches the doors, they light up and a voice greets him, clearly advising him to stay calm no matter what. Isaac's wide, excited eyes gleam with anticipation. Meanwhile, at the back of the line, Kina and his group are lounging around. One of them wonders if they're moving too slowly, especially since they're last. But with a sly smirk, the Barrett boy assures them there's no need to take the difficult path when they can let others go first and act as their meat shields. Cool and confident, he reminds them that an 8th rank demon guards the second storage room, so others are bound to get stuck there anyway. And just as he says this, a brilliant glow appears on the other side of the doors, proving his prediction correct. As the trial starts, everyone is stunned by the sudden appearance of a handsome divine figure who gently encourages them to keep their cool. But before he can finish speaking, our impatient Demon King instantly blasts him with holy power, reducing him to ashes. Shuri immediately loses it, mentally kicking himself for believing his cousin could last more than 3 seconds. The boys' frustrated screams echo through the hallway, but the most furious one is still our hero, who can't help his instinctual urge to obliterate every deity. He sees Whisper snickers, joking that even lasting 3 seconds is impressive for his boss. Then the voice announces their failure, stating that the reckless ones will now face divine punishment. Right on cue, a massive golem bursts through the gates. With a ground-shaking roar, Shuri is sent into panic mode, but the Demon King stays calm, charging up his magical Kamehameha. Without hesitation, he unleashes a red beam that slices through the golem effortlessly. Shuri's jaw nearly hits the floor in shock, but as the towering golem looms above them, our hero starts to question why it's even here. Suddenly, the giant creature collapses into rubble at the feet of the Ashua brothers. However, the Demon King isn't pleased. He remembers being told that only 8th rank demons would be involved. Yet he immediately recognizes the summoned golem as one of his own creations. The magic used to bring it forth belongs to one of his 14 elite familiars. That realization sparks concern. Did the Ashua family make a pact with his subordinates, or have his leftover remains drawn them in? Determined to find out, he marches confidently toward the second storage area. Before Shuri can even yell at him stop, a loudmouth cuts in, thanking the Ashua boys for clearing the way. Emerging from the bushes, a red-haired guy named Nizer appears with his goons. He smugly brags about his strategy and tells the Demon King to step aside and let the real players take over. His lackeys quickly surround the Demon King, making sure he can't pull any sneaky tricks. Like last time, Nizer mocks Shuri, saying he should be ashamed for using his cousin as bait. Shuri tries to defend himself, but Nizer finds it laughable that the little baby could have made it through the traps alone. Then the redhead notices the ring hanging from the Demon King's neck and snatches it without hesitation. Grinning like an idiot, he declares that the artifact will now protect him from all traps ahead. Shuri grows visibly uneasy, watching his cousin stay perfectly calm, even after being robbed of his precious ring, and his fears prove valid. Nizer and his squad strut forward, a smug grin on Nizer's face, as he proudly claims he'll bring back the Skeleton King's body and become a hero of the ducal family. But within seconds of entering the next zone, they're caught in explosions and flames. The boys are led straight into a deadly trap, leaving Shuri completely speechless. Meanwhile, our Demon King isn't bothered at all. In fact, he enjoys watching those obnoxious kids suffer. Having used them as bait, not gonna lie, kind of feel bad for them anyway. Our hero rides on Shuri's back as they move into the second area, laughing at the fools who burn for his convenience. He thanks them for triggering all the landmines. Still, he's annoyed by the persistent group of kids that's been tailing him. These kids, absolutely starstruck by the mighty baby's divine brilliance, even blame Nizer for everything that went wrong. In their eyes, there's no way the adorable prodigy from the Ashura family would ever cheat in his thoughts. Shuri urgently warns the boys to run from the demon, currently sitting on his shoulders. Just then a new figure steps forward, claiming that if a saint truly exists, then Isaac is the perfect embodiment of one. He introduces himself as Julius, the second prince of the neighboring Kingdom Paris. Hearing the rumors that this prince is blessed by the gods, our hero's curiosity is instantly sparked. At that moment, Shuri informs him they've reached the entrance to the third trial. The gates swing open, unveiling a dazzling scene of glowing, fiery orbs and floating guardians. A voice echoes across the arena, declaring that the third trial will measure their courage. While Isaac's devoted fans are brimming with excitement, Shuri stands speechless as the angelic guardians reveal that only those who defeat them may advance, believing they just need to act bravely. The overzealous fanboys charge forward into battle, but instead of joining them, our hero pauses, analyzing what the gatekeeper's words might truly mean. Then, as if a light bulb goes off, a wicked grin creeps across his tiny face. The mighty baby signals his fanboys to stay back. Meanwhile, Shuri reflects deeply, remembering how Isaac's judgments have always proven correct. He suspects the gatekeepers are lying, just like in the previous trials of choice and patience, both of which Isaac passed, by doing the exact opposite of what was expected. Since this trial is about remembrance, Shuri concludes they need to recall the lessons from the past ones. Convinced by his logic, he decides not to engage in battle. Isaac seems to confirm this plan by halting and guiding the boys away from the Guardians. His confused, two-legged horse wonders if the Saint's compassion has finally awakened. A flicker of hope lights up inside him, thinking his cousin might actually be changing. But just as that hope begins to grow, Isaac suddenly powers up a little magic bomb and hurls it straight into one Guardian's back. His poor gullible ride is left in shock, while our twisted baby gleefully watches his sinister plan unfold. In response, the gatekeeper immediately goes berserk, striking down the candidates below with a devastating blast. The screaming boys are launched like shrapnel, wailing for their mothers. Off to the side, the Ashua brothers silently witness the chaos. Realizing too late what's happened, Shuri glances at Isaac's expression, only to see the same demonic grin, fully aware of the trap. Recognizing the familiar deception, our boy senses deja vu. It's the same kind of trickery, crafted by his top-tier familiars. Bursting into maniacal laughter, the villainous baby watches the foolish kids suffer, tasting the brutal truth of lies and betrayal. Poor Shuri can only pity those unfortunate souls. On the second floor of St. Tessa's relic storage, flames raged in every corner, devouring everything and turning it into ash. Thick black smoke choked the air, making it almost impossible to breathe. The heat was so intense, it felt like the entire room was being slow cooked. In the middle of this chaos, a bunch of kids were crying their eyes out, wiping tears, and completely panicked. One of them managed to ask where Ashua had gone. What none of them realized was that a few ghost-like figures, completely invisible, were still right beside them. Isaac had pulled off a sneaky spell, just in time to get out of the mess. Another kid shouted that the two were right there. Just a moment ago, they had to be found. Meanwhile, Isaac, wearing a smug grin like a total evil genius, was watching everything unfold. Right next to him, Shuri was jittering nervously, looking like he was about to wet himself from stress. Turns out Isaac had cast a 6th rank, holy invisibility spell to keep them hidden. He proudly credited this to his awesome uncle, who had blessed him with the spell long ago, specifically for emergencies like this. Isaac never imagined he'd get such a perfect moment to pull it off. And thanks to this little magic trick, Paris Julius also got a ticket to join their invisible hideout. Paris was grateful that Isaac included him too, but Isaac just shrugged it off, like it wasn't a big deal. Suddenly, Isaac tossed a ring to Paris. The kid caught it, but stood there unsure what to do with it. He asked Isaac why he gave it to him. Then it clicked. Paris's eyes filled with doubt as he looked at Isaac, and asked if this was because Isaac didn't think he could take on the demon kin one-on-one. Isaac just looked at him like the answer was obvious. Overwhelmed, Paris's eyes welled up with emotion, and he thanked Isaac for the gesture, gripping the ring tightly in appreciation. He decided then and there his father needed to hear about this. But just then, out of nowhere, Paris let out a scream that sounded like he was being electrocuted. By 1,000 volts, it was like something was draining the life right out of him, and the eerie red energy pulsing from the ring seemed to be the reason watching this horror. Shuri screamed, too, his entire body shaking like crazy, as if he'd seen a ghost. Isaac and the ominous dark cloud started cracking up at the sight. The dark entity wasn't even surprised. He knew exactly what to expect from his master Isaac. Meanwhile, Shuri stared in disbelief at the twisted, unholy creature Isaac had become, cursing the fact that Uncle Relly had ever brought this monster into their family. Then one of the kids stepped up and told everyone they needed to stick together. He asked if anyone had holy defensive power. A brunette came forward, golden light swirling in his hand, ready to protect them. Another kid offered to back him up, suggesting they form a barrier against the raging lion puppets. But those creatures weren't waiting. They attacked without hesitation, demanding that these weaklings accept their punishment. Just then, the kid in black signaled the brunette to act. With golden energy glowing in his hand, the brunette charged forward to unleash a defensive strike. But before he could do anything, he suddenly collapsed to the ground dead. Something had gone terribly wrong. The kid in black was panicking, calling out to the fallen boy, but got no response. He trembled uncontrollably as the flames danced around him. Then, out of nowhere, another blast of red energy zapped him too, draining his life and dropping him to his knees. Like a beggar, the lying puppets, just inches away from finishing him off, suddenly halted. Something about this unexpected turn stunned them. They had no idea why. These kids were dropping like flies. One of the puppets even flew up to scan the survivors, trying to figure it out then, addressing the survivors. It asked if had someone finally fallen for their lies. Meanwhile, the dark soul pieces everything together, realizing the ring is actually draining the holy power stored inside the kids. Isaac just shrugs like it's nothing unusual, acting like it was bound to happen. Without wasting any time, he orders the dark soul to head over to that location and repeat the process on that pair, as well watching everything from the sidelines. Isaac smirks as the dark soul begins playing its twisted little games casually. The ring is floated toward the blonde kid, who's in the middle of fighting the deceptive puppet. Within a second, the kid drops to the ground, completely unconscious. The lying puppet and the other kid are stunned, clueless about what just happened. The blonde kid's friend trembles and tries to ask what's wrong, but there's no answer. The puppet tries to calm the guy down, saying there's no point worrying. They don't mess with anyone who's already down. In fact, they claim it's better to have your holy power drained and just pass out than to keep fighting. Acting like things are getting dull, the whisper informs its master that the job is nearly finished. Out of nowhere, a blinding ball of golden energy bursts into existence. The dark soul is completely confused, no idea where it came from or what's causing it. To make things even weirder, it spots a terrifying figure inside the glowing orb, burning from the inside out. In a panic, the dark soul gets blasted away, bouncing out of the court like a football. Shuri, completely shaken, feels like he's on the edge of losing his mind, while still holding Isaac above his head. Neither of them saw this coming. Amid the chaos, a familiar voice rises. It's the dramatic Kinda Barrett, announcing that he's finally tracked down Isaac. Joshua narrows his eyes, muttering under his breath, wondering why this guy suddenly chose now to show up. After being Mia, Shuri turns pale, totally thrown off by Keanu's surprise appearance. He always knew the kid was talented, but what he just witnessed was on another level. Sheer brilliance, completely unexpected. Suddenly, Shuri sees a giant pair of white wings flapping. It's an eagle bowing to Kina with pride. Kina stands tall, his body glowing with golden thunder. Shuri is stunned that such a young kid is actually capable of summoning a holy spirit. He realizes she's operating on a whole different level. Kina admits that Isaac has managed to surprise her too. Apparently, she didn't expect to run into someone like him. Someone who could actually defeat a demon kin. Either that, or she suspects Isaac lured the other kids into some kind of trap, just to boost his own chances, just like he did in the first trial. Behind him, the kid in black helps the brunette. The brunette yells that this little one is trying to finish the trial for them. They even blurt out that they were told exactly where to go. According to them, Isaac is their savior. Isaac, baffled, thinks these kids have completely lost it. The dark soul grins amused, thinking, so this is what Stockholm Syndrome looks like. Kina laughs at the idea of calling Isaac a savior. He taunts the others, asking how low they're willing to go, and still call themselves saint candidates, especially if they're depending on a baby for help. But the kid in black claps back, reminding Kina that he's been hiding this entire time. Now he shows up and acts all righteous, when he didn't even bother to check for traps, while others were out doing the dirty work. He bluntly says, that baby's more of a saint than Kina could ever be. At that, the group agrees. They'll be informing their families that, following the Ashua family's path, and what Yisrael has done is the smarter choice. Shuri watches all this, feeling helpless and heartbroken for the kids, who've been unknowingly manipulated by the monster sitting on his shoulders.